everyone, it's Karina and welcome back to my channel. So I'm really sorry for not uploading for so long because I had mock exams and I basically had to study for them. So I wanted to make a video about how was my mock exams, my experience, my thoughts and all of that. So mock exams are basically the exams that are checked by the Department of Education, and basically like in Ireland where I live, these mock exams, they happen in third year. So I just had them and it's just like to check like what you know, like what you need to improve and all of that sort of stuff. So like it can help you improve on your Junior Cert. So I'm gonna be talking about each of my subjects one by one, on how I felt, like what type of like questions there were. Like I'm gonna say like a few questions from what I can remember. Like I don't remember all the questions, but like it's just like, so anyone who is going to start third year like have like a bit of tips like when they join third year, like what they may be like expecting and all that sort of stuff. But like basically like mock exams, like one of my friends told me like not to really like worry about it because like it's just to check like how much you know before the actual Junior Cert. So let's get into it. So the first mock exam I had was English, I remember, and I'm in higher level English by the way for now, which I hope I don't get moved. But like higher level English mock exam was so bad in my opinion, and some of my classmates like who are in my higher level English, like if you like said like it was like alright and all that, but like it was like big essays kind of we had to write it, and one of them like said it was so bad, like because we had to like write a lot, and I literally like agreed with her. So like from what I can remember, we were like given like some poem and we basically had to like answer a question on it, and like basically like in a PQE format, and every of the questions like we had to answer in PQE format except one of them, which was like some sort of like a speech. Like you basically had to write a speech, like if you were like making like a movie like about this poem, because like this poem was about like children being like at a beach having fun, all that sort of stuff. And I basically like what like where like it can be, where like you could have put like camera angles. I think it would have like got like more points if you put camera angles in there. So I didn't finish that fully because like I didn't have time and it was like too much thinking for the question. And there's like a question where I had to write about two major conflicts like in a play or a novel. The novel we did was The Outsiders and the play we did was The Blood Brothers, and I chose Blood Brothers, but like I didn't write a lot because I pretty much forgot a little bit what happened in the conflicts. But one of the conflicts I can remember in Blood Brothers was where the two characters, Edward and Mickey, they basically like had a conflict about social class because Edward is rich and but Mickey is poor, and Mickey like felt jealous that Edward like has everything, all he wants, all that sort of stuff. But Mickey on the other hand had a complete opposite, like he didn't have everything he wanted. So that's from what I can remember. And like it was like really difficult for me like to write something, just too much to write, you know. So English mock exam was actually so bad. It was the worst mock exam I think out of all the subjects for me. But I mean like higher level subjects, they are like hard in general. So I do higher level English for now. I just hope I won't get dropped to ordinary English. I don't want to be in ordinary English either way. Higher level Irish. I live in Ireland, in case like you're like a new subscriber and like you didn't know I actually live in Ireland. So I do higher level Irish. Like in higher level like Irish, like it's nearly like doing English in a higher level, but like you answer questions in Irish. so it's difficult, and I do higher level maths. So I'm gonna now talk about how was my mock exam for geography. Next mock exam I had was geography mock exam, and I remember in my geography mock exam it was like alright, like it was like in the middle. Like some bits like were difficult, like basically on how I should answer it as a 99% student. So like for example, it's mostly like really when it comes to like OS maths, like how you would answer like an OS math, let's say more properly, if I was to do is like you basically like, for example, if you wanted to place a factory somewhere, you say like I will place a factory at this 6-digit coordinates in the OS map, and like you'll say like why, and if there's like for example a city nearby, you would also put the coordinates where the city is to get extra marks. So that's pretty much a little bit of a tip I want to give, like if you're ever gonna do like a geography mock exam or even a geography exam in general, put extra coordinates where like something is, not only where you want to place something, but like yeah. So there's also questions about like migration and all this sort of stuff. Like I had to like write some reasons and all of that, which was kind of like, you know, also got me thinking how should I somehow write it as a 99% student. It was really annoying, but like if you want to get loads of marks, you start thinking that, so like how should I actually write it. Like you think like, oh, the question, like it sounds easy, but when it comes to writing it, you'll be like, now how should I write it to get loads of marks? That's all that was going on in my head in geography mock exam. So now I'm gonna talk about my next mock exam I had. Next mock exam I had was on a Monday. I had a Spanish mock exam. I had an oral, which means like when you listen like to the radio thing, and then like it tells about like what's going on and all that, and then you basically have to answer the questions. Some like of the questions were like in Spanish and somewhere in English, but mostly in English from what I can remember. And it was so bad. Loads of these words were like so confusing. I was like really embarrassed and all of that, like because like even though we were practicing like Spanish oral loads of times, like that doesn't mean I'm gonna understand every single Spanish word because I don't speak Spanish fluently. For the Spanish fluent speakers in my class, we only have 3 fluent Spanish speakers in my class, and I believe they found it really easy, to be fair. So then we had to go like to the hall, and we did like the mock exam booklet in Spanish, and most of them were like you get like a comprehension in Spanish, and the questions were in English. If the questions are in English, then we had to answer them in English. If they were in Spanish, we had to answer them in Spanish. So like if the questions were in Spanish, it was more easier because like the words were in Spanish, but in English, like you basically had to translate a Spanish text. So some of the words I didn't understand in Spanish, but some I did, and I answered in comprehension and all that. And there's like, I remember I was like doing like the blog bit in Spanish, so I didn't have time to answer some of the questions about like my personal life, for example, like about my school, like hobbies and all that sort of stuff, like what I want to do in the future. And so like I only answered a tiny bit of those, but like I was mostly like then focusing on the blog bit until it was like time's up. The blog bit that I basically had to do, I had to like write it in Spanish, and it was basically about me being like with some Spanish family, trying to improve my Spanish, whatever, and I'm writing this to my friend, what I'm planning to do on the weekends, how my bedroom looks like, what am I doing, and all of that. So that was kind of like difficult for me to write, but I wrote as much as I can for this. So So it was really head-wrecking. So I was really not that happy with Spanish. So I'm really scared with my results, and especially what my Spanish teacher will say, because my Spanish teachers and English teacher know that I did well like in Spanish and all that, but after I found my results, I don't know. I don't know how she'll feel about my results when they'll come. So yeah, now I'm gonna talk about the next mock exam I had. Next mock exam I had was history, and history wasn't that great as well, because like I basically had to write like about the rebellion, I had to write about Martin Luther, I had to write about World War II, like during basically Nazi Germany and all that, like war, like change and all that. Like for example, the schools, like they taught kids about Nazi stuff and all of that. Women had to, like if they had like loads of kids, then they were awarded with like some medal, like this sort of stuff. So it was like really confusing. I forgot a lot about rebellion, but it was like to do like with Catholics, they were banned from nearly everything. Like they weren't allowed to be like priests, for example. So that sort of thing. So the only one I wrote a write on was about Martin Luther, where like he basically wrote about 95 Thesis, where he was like put to jail. He basically like burnt some papal bowl, whatever it's called, papal paper yolk, like in front of the public. That's from what I can remember. So yeah, history wasn't that great, and I'm not a big fan of history, to be fair. Like I don't hate history, but like it's just like, you know, like it just don't really want to learn about loads of things like many years ago, even like wars and all that, you know. So I'm gonna now talk about the next mock exam I had. The next mock exam I had the next day was business. Like the subject is usually called business studies. Like I don't know what to call it in other schools, like if it's like where you basically like delve into business stuff and all that. So like in Ireland it's called business studies. So it wasn't like the best, and also like sometimes like in business, like some of the questions be like how you can like improve this, what impacts can be for like, for example, this business, like for individual, like what the impact is, like what can like be bad or something. So that was like, you know, like I was writing like the answers to to see if the Department of Education will think like it's a good answer or not really, you know. So that was really confusing. The only thing that I did well was the cash book and the general ledger. It's where like we had like write like incorrect places, like the details and how much money there is, like incorrect boxes, all that. So I think that's the only thing I did well on, but the other stuff, like it was like difficult, and some of them like I tried maybe even like the best guess, thinking like something like similar to it, and also I don't know how I did it in business, but it was you know, difficult. So now I'm gonna talk about the next mock exam I had. The next mock exam I had the next day was maths. I also remember that like when I had business exam, the people who did science, they at science exam, the people who did art, they went home because like we didn't have an art exam. And for the art exam, like we were doing like some booklet like in a class, like the classes, and I think that will be like something to do with Junior Cert. So when it's gonna be like closer to Junior Cert, then I think that's when our booklets will be like checked or something. So maths was really difficult and it was kind of bad, but like I studied really long for maths, and I think out of all the subjects I mostly studied for maths. So I was really tired from studying maths and all that, and my mom knew I was studying maths for really long, so she felt pretty proud that I was studying for a really long time, and I was absolutely wrecked. But yeah, I still found it hard. Like I'm in higher level maths, like I mentioned, so like in maths, like I do all right and all of that, so like higher level maths for me is alright, and I love being in higher level maths. Like yeah, when you're like in a higher level subject, it's always better because like you get like more points and all that for junior and leaving cert thing. So yeah, but like I try my best to do even some calculations, which I thought maybe like some can be correct answers, but the examiner will say like no, that's not correct, but like you went right over here and all that, so I can still get marks to where I went right until the parts where I went wrong. So now I'm gonna talk about the next mock exam I had, and if you're wondering like any of the bits, like maybe where I found tricky like in maths and where like what I had and all that, from what I can remember, I had something to do with mostly like algebra stuff and all that, like the high yokes for like one has this, the other was like this. It was like to do something like with the ladder or something, and I had to like find like x and all that. That's one of the, from what I can remember. So there's like also like I had to find some mean, range, median, and these stuff. But I remember like when my maths teacher like told us what we had to study for maths, like someone asked him what we have to study for maths, and all he said was with a straight face, he goes, everything. That's how he basically like said it. So I try to study just as much as I can, that's all, but I still try my best in maths, and I think I'll get like maybe like somewhere in the middle result, but I'll see what I'll get. Next day what we had was Irish, and for Irish we had an oral, which was like the same thing with Spanish, where like you listen to the radio and you had to answer questions, and we had to like write the answers in Irish. And because I'm in higher level Irish is really difficult, to be fair. So I remember the listening part was way worse than the writing part, but the writing part was so bad as well, in my opinion. So the listening part, I nearly didn't understand anything, and I was just mostly taking guesses and all that. Like who knows, maybe I'll get some points. Well, I had like two of the questions blank, but everything else I tried to fill in with my guesses. They weren't actually like what like I thought that is the correct answer, but just so that like I didn't have a complete blank exam like page on what I did in oral for Irish. So then we went to the P hall and we did our Irish written part, and like there were like questions in Irish, like I had to like write about like the poem we did in Irish, which was Misha Era, which means I am Ireland in Irish, and I had to like answer some questions about it. And then I also had to write about like some sort of like a short story, which is Cuihamor, which means big game in Irish. So I had to write about like what happened and all that sort of stuff. And the other one was like, it's like Urshkale, and it's like some sort of like, I'm not exactly sure how to explain, but like I remember it was like also like some little short story thing. And the Urshkale we did was Cúpla, which basically means twins in Irish. So I basically had to write about it as well, and it was head-wrecking from what I can say. Like, it's mainly because like I was thinking like how to write these sentences in Irish correctly and all of that, to even minimum to make some sense, like even get some marks at least for attempting somehow to answer in Irish. But I think like when the examiner will be checking my Irish written mock exam paper, I'll be having tons of corrections on what I was writing. But like even if I get like really low for higher level Irish, like I remember my Irish teacher told me like not to panic about like if I'll be getting like low for higher Irish, because higher Irish it's hard in general. Like I don't speak Irish fluently, and like we just learn Irish as a language because we live in Ireland, and Irish is a language in Ireland. But loads of people who live in Ireland, they speak English, but we learn Irish as a language. Some schools, I think they have like fluent Irish speakers and all that, but like in my school, fluent English speakers, but Irish, we learn it as language. So, try my best with Irish. So, like I don't know why, but I'll think like, oh, I may get like an average result or something, you know, somewhere kind of like in the middle, or maybe even more like 60%. But in reality, I'll get like 40-something%. So it'll depend on the examiners, but I'll see what I'll get for Irish. Then the last and final mock exam I had was home economics. If you don't know what home economics is, it's basically like a subject where you get to cook, you get to learn how to sew, you learn about food permits, you learn about different family types, you learn about housing, you learn about your digestive system. So these sorts of stuff, you learn about different diets, for example, like what diet does a person with diabetes have, celiac disease, this sort of stuff. You learn dairy, you learn about nutrition, you learn loads of stuff, like anything like relevant to like foods mostly, I'll say. So home economics exam was also not that great. I was pretty much confused with like loads of questions and all that, and some I even like tried to take my best guess and all. So like I try to study as well, like as much as I can for home economics, and like it was like for now the written part, but like after the midterm will be cooking, so that'll be also points for our mock exam. So like for cooking, because my topic I got was food label, I have to do one starter and one dessert. So my mom and I, we were practicing to do the starter and dessert, and now I have to mostly practice on without looking at the recipe, because my mom thinks that like if I won't look at the recipe and know everything, like what to do and all that, like do everything on time, then she believes that the examiner will give me more marks, and as long as I do everything correctly, you know. So I still kind of look a bit at the recipe, but like I need to still somehow learn how to like not look at the recipe and make sure that I was doing everything correctly when I'll be cooking after the midterm. So hoping I'll do really well when it's gonna be cooking for home economics, because I already cooked a few times and I try my best to not look at recipe as much as I can. But like I did like a few times, but also like a little bit got help from my mom, like mostly to do like with oven and all that, because like the ovens that like in my school they're different to the ovens oven I have at home. So I'll have to figure out somehow with the oven in school, but everything else I'll be alright when it's gonna be the home economics exam with cooking. Just get my equipment, do everything as fast as I can. Like, of course, like I don't have to like, you know, rush with everything. Like my mom would be like, don't rush and all that. Like everyone would usually say, don't rush, take your time and all that. But like you still have to somehow do like really quick your starter and dessert, so that I also had time to do my evaluation, which means I have to like write how my food looks like. Does it like look soft? Does it look tasty? Is it warm? Is it cold? If I was to make this like starter or dessert, like if I'll make like any changes, this sort of stuff. So that's all I had to talk about today. It was just like for if you're just like gonna be starting third year really soon, or like if you already did third year and you're like in more higher class already, like you might probably have some more similar experience as me as well, or like I don't know how it works in other countries when you're in 9th grade, 9th class, whatever you'll call it. So that's just how it works for us in Ireland. But yeah, that's it guys for today's video. And if you have like any stories on where you did your mock exams, I would like to hear them. Like if you found like some subject difficult, did you feel like same as me where you found every mock exam like better and like maybe some like in the middle, or surprisingly you found some mock exam maybe easy. But yeah, I'd love to hear any of your stories of you talking about your mock exam experience, even like a big paragraph about it, like I don't mind. So I'll make my next video like when I'll be having my cheerleading competition, and I don't know what other videos I'll make, but it's been a while since I uploaded a video. Just loads of studying and all. Life is life, but hopefully I'll make a new video as soon as possible. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!